Hello, thank you for joining us for the Bradford Board of Trade's Recovery Forum presented by BRADFORDTODAY.CA. I'm Jennifer Harrison. I'm the VP of PR for the Bradford Board of Trade, and joining us today for the 2021 Recovery Forum are representatives from all three levels of government, the Mayor, our MP, and our MPP. So much has changed in Bradford West Gwillimbury and across the world in just 1 year. And even in just the last few days, we're hearing from our members about their frustrations and their challenges. And right now, along with those government leaders who are ready to ensure that you know about available supports and programs for your business, we have business industry leaders as well who can also give us a picture of where we are now and where we're going. So just before we start, a huge thank you to our sponsors today. These are small businesses, local businesses, family-owned businesses that have stepped up to support the BBT. We are a not-for-profit, and we help support our members in the business community. You know, one of the things we've done just recently that we're particularly proud of is the BWG Takeout Challenge, supporting local restaurants, and this has really been embraced by residents. It's going so wonderfully. We've had 756 entries, and at an average of about $50 a meal, that's more than $37,000 spent in the community. So thank you to the residents and everyone supporting that. I just want to have a quick mention of all of our sponsors today. Each of our speakers is brought to us today by a local business. Our presenting sponsor is BRADFORDTODAY.CA. Thank you so much to them. But we are also sponsored by DreamWinds, Equine Assisted Learning, Freshie Bradford, Partners Counseling, Personally Yours, Ryan's Landscaping, and of course, the town of Bradford West Gwillimbury. So thank you very much to them. We're going to get right into our first speaker. Our speaker is brought to you today by Freshie Bradford. Thank you for your sponsorship. And joining us now is Caroline Mulrooney, MPP for the riding of York Simcoe. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you so much. A special thanks to the Bradford Board of Trade for inviting me this morning to speak at the Recovery Forum. I also want to extend my heartfelt appreciation to the Bradford Board of Trade. Throughout the pandemic, the Board of Trade has worked tirelessly and proactively with my constituency office to ensure that our partners in Bradford West Gwillimbury are made aware of the programs, funding, and changes to the provincial COVID-19 framework. Our Ontario government often talks about the Ontario spirit, and I think that each of you and the work that you do truly embodies this sentiment. And this has been shown through the way you share your knowledge and the innovative approaches that have been essential to Ontario's prosperity. The COVID-19 pandemic has changed our world drastically, and it has reinforced the importance of what we're discussing today. Our government recognizes a simple yet important reality. Small businesses are the backbone of Ontario's economy. They support supply chains for every sector. They serve thriving and diverse communities, and they grow to become the game-changing corporations our province is known for worldwide. As the COVID-19 vaccine program is rolled out, our government is working to steer Ontario's economy back on track. However, this week, the Simcoe-Muskoka District Health Unit advised that Simcoe-Muskoka needs to engage the emergency brake to stop the spread of the virus and protect public health. I know that this is hard news for our community. Yesterday, I met with Dr. Gardner to discuss his recommendation to move to gray lockdown and how this decision has impacted our business community. We also discussed options that will help balance business and keep our residents healthy and safe. I want you to know that I will continue advocating at the cabinet table for small businesses in Bradford West Gwillimbury and throughout York Simcoe. Small businesses in BWG have demonstrated true resilience amidst COVID-19. It's challenging for small businesses to survive at the best of times, and the pandemic has only exacerbated the issues that so many of your businesses face. Each small business in BWG brings life to our community and creates jobs and opportunities for our families. So I'd like to share with you some of the efforts that the government is taking to support our local business community. The new Ontario Small Business Support Grant provides essential support to our business community. This one-time grant of up to $20,000 will give eligible small business owners the boost that they need to meet today's challenges. The grant was designed so that each recipient could use the support in whatever way makes the most sense for their business. For example, some may use the support to pay employee wages or rent, while others may use the funds to maintain their inventory. But what remains is the freedom and flexibility for our small businesses to decide what's best for them. Eligible small businesses can also apply for a one-time business grant, providing local small businesses with up to $1,000 to help with the cost of personal protective equipment that were purchased since March 17, 2020. In addition, our government is providing rebates to cover costs related to property tax and energy bills. All these grant programs are available through a single application process, and the application and all other small business resources may be found at ontario.ca/COVID support. If you have any questions regarding your application or a response to your application, please call my constituency team. Businesses struggling to pay their energy bills as a result of COVID-19 may also be eligible for the COVID-19 Energy Assistance Program for Small Business, which provides a one-time, one-bill credit to eligible small business and registered charity customers to help them catch up on their energy bills and resume regular payments. Small business and registered charity customers may be eligible for up to $1,500 in support towards their electricity and natural gas bills, and can apply for on-bill credits for both electricity and natural gas separately. We understand that the global marketplace is rapidly changing, and to compete and succeed, Ontario must adapt. Through our Digital Main Street program, we have accelerated our efforts to provide small businesses with the support that they need to go digital, while also creating 1,400 jobs for talented students, designers, and innovators. We need to help Main Street businesses and consumers understand that shopping local and shopping digital can go hand in hand. Through the $57 million Digital Main Street program, small businesses were eligible for a $2,500 grant to assist with the cost of establishing or enhancing their digital presence. By using innovative tools and technologies, Digital Main Street helped our businesses in expanding their reach to meet new markets and adjust to the new realities of doing business during the pandemic and into the next phase of economic recovery. Recently, I stopped by Experience Toys and Games and listened to how they pivoted their Main Street business by offering free delivery on phone or online orders of games and puzzles. By offering online shopping, Experience Toys and Games has opened themselves up to a new online retail market, and this has had a positive impact on their business. Approximately 60% of Ontario's small enterprises have a website, and only 70% have an online payment solution. Digitally, Canadian businesses are estimated to be 2 years behind their US counterparts. In response, the Ontario government is providing a significant support to small business. Along with the Digital Main Street platform, the province is investing an additional $150 million in rural broadband that will help open the digital road for many of Ontario's small businesses. To support jobs at local restaurants and bars, we've expanded opportunities in alcohol sales, including making the sale of alcohol with food takeout and delivery orders permanent, and capping delivery fees charged to restaurants. Knowing how important the hospitality industry is to the vitality of our communities and our economy, our government is making every effort to support them through this difficult time. Previously, Ontario paused evictions of businesses eligible for the Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance Program for Small Businesses, SECRA. This ban on commercial evictions ended on January 31st of this year and has been replaced by the federal government with the Canadian Emergency Rent Subsidy. As businesses continue to be impacted by the pandemic, the government has temporarily paused evictions for tenants who have been approved for the federal program. Commercial tenants who can pay their rent must continue to do so, and landlords should work with their tenants to come to an agreement. Despite the province's progress in containing COVID-19, low consumer confidence is also an issue. To respond to this concern and to promote a sustainable, self-sufficient recovery for the economy, our government is proud to support a Shop Local campaign. This program calls on local leaders and groups to raise awareness of how safe and beneficial it is to support small businesses by committing on social media to shop local, shop safe, and shop with confidence. There are so many success stories of the Ontario spirit across York Simcoe, such as Don Cherry's Sports Bar and Grill, that raised $1,000 for the Bradford Legion Remembrance Day campaign. They also partnered with Reels No Frills, Master Appliance, and Mortgage Partner Corporation, who teamed up with the Holland Marsh Growers Association to give away hundreds of food bags filled with an uncooked turkey, potatoes, onions, carrots, and boxes of stuffing. This is just one example of the many community-minded efforts that I have been highlighting from across York Simcoe. But for every story we hear, there are countless others who are also known to the people whose lives they've touched. For instance, I am certain that the encouraging letters from RPC staff to Bradford Valley were very meaningful and provided much needed encouragement. We want to ensure that municipalities have the support that they need to protect the health and well-being of the people of Ontario, while delivering the critical services needed as we gradually and safely restart our economy. The Safe Restart Agreement addresses municipal operating pressures related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The town of Bradford West Gwillimbury has been on the front line every day, providing essential services and safeguarding our residents. And I look forward to continuing to collaborate with the town on how we can provide support to fully recover from the pandemic. The vaccine plays a key role in returning to some state of normalcy. The government will gradually and safely reopen businesses, services, and public spaces, and reunite residents in care settings with their loved ones once the vaccine levels are high and the upswings in resurgence are down. The news that Health Canada has approved the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine is very encouraging. It is our hope that this decision will help move timelines. However, I am calling on the federal government to provide a reliable and consistent vaccine supply so that our government can plan accordingly and we can reopen safely and faster. Even as we limit ourselves to essential travel, we still depend on a safe and reliable transportation network to get essential and frontline workers to work safely and to ensure that goods can get to market. And as we begin addressing the long-term impacts of this virus on our economy, our transportation's infrastructure construction will be the foundation of our Made in Ontario plan for growth, renewal, and long-term recovery. There will come a day when we beat COVID and leave the pandemic behind us. When that day comes, we will need a modern transit and transportation network that will meet our growing population and growing economy. By 2041, Ontario's population is expected to grow by about 30%, and our infrastructure needs to keep up. That's why we continue to advance planning for the Bradford Bypass, a long-awaited project that will connect highways 400 and 404 and will go a long way towards alleviating congestion on our roads, creating jobs, and growing our economy. We have robust plans to improve the province's highway network, and we are moving forward as quickly as possible. It's important to discuss how the different levels of government collaborate on the COVID-19 protocols and policies to keep our communities safe. The province is responsible for setting the framework and regulations and making decisions at the health cabinet table. Each public health unit is responsible for interpreting and applying those regulations and applying them within their boundaries. Municipal bylaw ensures that the regulations are being adhered to and enforced. That being said, the staff at the public health unit, MP Scott Davidson's office, Mayor Keffer's office, and my team are in constant communication with each other to work through any issues that might arise. I encourage you to reach out to my constituency team, and I assure you that we will work with our community partners to address your concerns and any challenges that you may experience. Ontarians and communities all over the province depend on small businesses. Today, those small businesses are depending on us. Our government wants small businesses to know that we will be there for them every step of the way. As we move forward, I commit to working collectively with our business community to help them recover from the economic impacts of COVID-19 and rebuild them to be in a better position than before. With our small businesses contributing so much to our livelihoods, prosperity, and who we are as a province, our government refuses to give up on them throughout this pandemic and into the years ahead. COVID-19 has unleashed sweeping health, social, and economic effects, touching every corner of our province. But through it all, our people and businesses have stuck together. Whether by shutting down to flatten the curve, physically distancing to keep employees and customers safe, or overhauling their business models overnight, small businesses have gone above and beyond to serve the people of Ontario. And I know that this comes at a great cost to their employees and their families. As the pandemic evolves, we will continue to explore new ways to help your businesses recover, rehire, and rebuild to restore hope for a brighter tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Caroline Mulrooney, MPP, for the riding of York Simcoe. Thank you very much. I know you mentioned you want people to reach out to your office, and I just want to reiterate that contact information is 905-895-1555, or you can email her office at caroline.mulrooney.co@pc.ola.org. And we'll make sure we reiterate that again later on. Thank you so much for joining us, Caroline.
Thank you, Jennifer. Have a great day.
Up next, we have a couple of speakers from the Ontario Chamber of Commerce. This next segment is sponsored by Partners Counseling. We want to welcome Trevor Mcpherson and Michelle Eaton, both from the Ontario Chamber. Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much.
Take it away. Let's hear.
Awesome. And listen, my name is Michelle Eaton. I'm the Vice President of Public Affairs at the Ontario Chamber of Commerce. I'm going to speak a little bit about a few of the themes, related to advocacy that we've been doing. But before I kick off, I just really want to thank the entire staff at the Bradford Board of Trade for putting together today's event. It's important that we have discussions like we're having today. And mostly I want to thank you all for all the important work you do to support businesses in the community with your services, networking, and advocacy. You do a tremendous job, and our Ontario Chamber network is truly stronger together because of teams like yours. So bravo to you. And then for the folks that aren't familiar with the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, we've been we're the independent, nonpartisan voice and indispensable partner of business since 1911. We support economic growth in Ontario by defending business priorities at Queen's Park and Parliament Hill on behalf of our network's diverse 60,000 members and 140 chambers of commerce and boards of trade from across Ontario. So we work with our members to improve business competitiveness, across all sectors and sizes, and we lead and shape public policy conversations provincially and with communities through our policy work, our policy reports, and we provide exclusive business supports, networking, and innovative insights and analysis to our members. So since the beginning of the pandemic, the Ontario Chamber, we've been hearing from businesses across the provinces and taking those concerns to all levels of government. It's been day in and day out that we've been fighting tirelessly to make sure that your concerns have been heard and that programs have been created or adjusted to make sure that it reflects the needs of Ontario's business community. And the great part has been that all levels of government have been listening, they've been responding and adapting and delivering programs to support Ontario's business community. So today I want to touch on 4 different themes quickly. So I want to talk about ongoing business supports, vaccine rollout, reopening strategies, and recovery. So when it comes to ongoing business supports, and Minister Maroney touched on a number of the programs available to support your businesses at this time. Seeing our businesses to the other side of the pandemic so our economy can recover has been a huge priority for us. And we and other business organizations have been at the table with all levels of government advocating. So when you hear about programs such as the Small Business Grant Program, Emergency Wage Subsidy, Regional Relief and Recovery Fund that was available through the federal government, pause on commercial evictions, even the alcohol sales from restaurants, those are measures that we were bringing to the different levels of government and saying, you know, we're hearing this from Ontario's business community, or we're hearing that these programs aren't working so well. So we work with our chambers of commerce and boards of trade from across Ontario to make sure that those concerns are coming real time. And we continue to work with our partners. We actually have a chamber call, a network call once a week, where we're hearing from our network about what's happening in their communities and making sure that we're bringing those to the different levels of government or working together to make sure local concerns are heard. So it's been an incredible effort with a number of different organizations to make sure that you know, those supports, the right supports are in place to get businesses through to the other side of the pandemic. A big topic these days is the vaccine rollouts, the second item I wanted to chat about. And you know, the faster we get Ontario's population inoculated, the faster we can safely reopen and work together on the province's economic recovery. Ontario businesses community, our business community is ready to help. Everyone wants to do their part. They want to support all efforts, and they have the power to. So we actually kicked off an Ontario Vaccine Support Council to complement current federal and provincial efforts. So because the private sector, there's about 250 businesses that are involved, and it's co-chaired by Facebook and Bruce Power. And it's really about, you know, either helping with communications or the logistical supports, because the private sector wants to help out and wants to get this, you know, wants to get the economy moving. So we've been working with General Hillier's task force team, our chambers of commerce and boards of trade from across Ontario. And actually in one of our first meetings, we had the Premier, Ministers Elliott and Jones, and General Hillier come speak. So it's been quite an effort on that front. And that's, you know, how we kind of kicked off the year with this this council focused on vaccines. Another area, and I think ongoing, because it's different for, you know, the situation is very different across Ontario. Reopening is a hot topic. Each region's experience is very different and unique when it comes to transmission rates, tracking, tracing capacity, and other variables. But we've been really, you know, and we're in daily conversations with each level of government. But I think when it comes to reopening, we've been really pushing for like having plans in place, advance notice, clear communication guidelines, an understanding of why things change. And I know that sometimes things really happen quickly for businesses. So, you know, getting staff in place when the notice is short sometimes is very challenging. We've been pushing for rapid testing, evidence-based decision-making, and continued supports for those that need it most. So, you know, we're now in wave 2. We don't want to be in wave 3. So there's been a lot of communities that have switched different zones. So we're working closely with all of our communities and chambers from across chambers and boards of trade from across Ontario to really help with these safe reopening practices. People want to get the economy moving and don't really want to be back in a situation where we have a full provincial lockdown, right? So working very closely on that. And then finally, recovery. Now, recovery, we had a group that worked on recovery advocacy principles last year, a number of subject matter experts, and we've incorporated that in our pre-budget submissions provincially and federally. And it's something that certainly, we'll want to be working closely with all of our chambers and boards of trade from across Ontario to make sure that when the time comes and we're in the clear, once the vaccine, everyone's been inoculated, that we do have a robust recovery. So I'll leave it there. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Trevor, to continue the conversation. I look forward to the questions after.
Thanks so much, Michelle. So I'll be quick. I know that our time is limited here. Just want to say honored to be with you all here, and thanks to the Bradford Board of Trade for having us. As Michelle mentioned, we're really only as effective at the Ontario Chamber of Commerce as we have as our 140 member chambers and communities across Ontario. Together with our member chambers, we collectively are the indispensable partner of business. And you hear that phrase, and that comes from our strategic plan, which was finalized in December 2019. And we had no idea what it exactly would mean or how important that phrase would be. And so everything we do is always back to that vision of being your indispensable partner. So if you haven't yet joined the Bradford Board of Trade, please consider it as an investment. It's an investment that brings tangible value back to your business, saving you time, and time is money, helping you to develop new professional relationships, and providing you with information to navigate all the various programs and regulations out there. As you've just heard from Michelle, we've learned a lot through the pandemic and continue to advocate for new supports and changes to programs that have been developed and deployed by both federal and provincial governments with really unprecedented speed. Never before have programs been designed, developed, quickly tested and launched that we've seen over the last year. With that comes areas for improvements and filling those unanticipated gaps. I know there's a lot of frustration right now. We hear it daily, and we're working with you, with all of our members across Ontario to address those pain points as much as we can in the advocacy work we do. We also provide information and communication support to your Board of Trade. So, for example, Michelle mentioned the weekly calls where we go through sort of the current issues that everyone's experiencing, regular policy updates, templated sort of messages, etc., that really help kind of our message resonate. We also have for members exclusive discount offerings, member benefit programs that can directly affect your bottom line. So those include of course, the Chamber's group insurance plan, merchant services, Granatory, Pure Later, and one I'd like to mention, Barter Pay Canada. We started this relationship with Barter Pay. And it's a platform with 4,000 to 5,000 companies on it that instead of having to use your cash, which is very precious at the moment, obviously, that underutilized, slow-moving inventory can be used instead of cash to purchase goods and services that you would otherwise use cash for on the Barter Pay platform, and we have an exclusive offering for chamber members on that. So something to consider. Equally important, we have funding opportunities. So thinking more long-term, we have a talent opportunities program that's funded federally to provide support of up to $7,500 or 75% wage subsidy to bring on a student from a college or university for internship. And we know that, you know, our younger labor force are certainly hit hard by the pandemic. So this is a program that can be helpful to both employers and those seeking their first job experience. We recently released the Ontario Economic Report. I'm not going to go into detail on that. I know we're coming at time here. But in that report, we've got sort of business confidence survey, the prosperity index, but just in terms of some of the key takeaways from that, really a focus on reskilling our labor force, on tax reform that will be necessary through the recovery, as well as widespread access to broadband infrastructure and capital. And we are having a report coming out on access to capital very shortly. So I just want to emphasize the imperative role that we all play together in the economic recovery. We've got some tremendous advantages here already as a province, but we need to work together. And we feel the Chamber Network is an excellent mechanism to do just that. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Trevor, and thank you to Michelle as well. I mean, I couldn't have made a better pitch to join the BBT or to join the Ontario Chamber of Commerce through us. Thank you so much for your partnership with us. Again, we're a not-for-profit organization and really there to advocate and support our business community with events like this, you know, bringing you information. Thank you so much. We're going to keep moving. Our next speaker is sponsored by Personally Yours. We want to welcome Martin Kuzma from Ottawa Saga Futures. Hi, Martin. How are you?
Good morning, Jennifer. Thank you for inviting me. How are you?
Great. Take it away.
Perfect. Thank you. So, Ottawa Saga Futures is a non-for-profit organization supported by the Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario, FedDev Ontario. We offer support, financing, and training for rural businesses across South Simcoe. So one of the programs that we were delivering in the past year is the Regional Relief and Recovery Fund. The RRF program provides liquidity support to businesses and not-for-profit organizations affected by the economic impacts of COVID, which are unable to access other federal relief measures or require additional support. The fund, which was valued at more than $2 billion nationally, is delivered by Canada's regional development agencies. In Southern Ontario, FedDev Ontario and the Community Futures Development Corporations deliver the program. In order to provide targeted assistance to the small towns and communities they serve, CFTCs are helping a range of businesses such as retail shops, restaurants, corner stores, and businesses of strategic importance to their communities with loans up to $60,000, 25% being the forgivable portion. Through the RF program, Ottawa Saga Futures has provided over $2 million in liquidity support and helped over 50 businesses in South Simcoe impacted by the pandemic to cover and maintain close to 80 jobs. That's one of the programs that we're offering. Another program that we're also offering through this pandemic is our business coaching program. So through a business coaching program, we provide education, webinars, and tools and resources directly to business owners, and also one-on-one coaching to help business owners execute their business ideas. The program also provides tangible one-on-one support on demand to help business owners with different subject matter experts, such as accounting, business planning, e-commerce. One of the other things that we've also been doing is we are also delivering a pilot program in partnership with the town of Bradford, expanding mental health consultation services to our local business community. Another program that we're also offering is a grant for a Quickbooks training. So through a Quickbooks training grant for your business, business owners were able to acquire the skills and the knowledge required to set up and maintain a complete set of books for medium to business-sized businesses. Through our training team, they'll be able to access that training. And since we are non-for-profit, all of our services are free of charge. So all these programs are free of charge to any businesses located in South Simcoe in the town of Bradford. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you very much, Martin. Again, another organization, not Saga Futures, that the Bradford Board of Trade is in communication with and certainly working together. We appreciate your time, Martin, and that information. I want to make sure that everybody at this point understands, there's a lot of information coming in, and I know that, it's needed and you appreciate it. If you have any questions for any of our speakers, please do feel free to reach out to the Bradford Board of Trade, BRADFORDTODAY.CA. An email to our CAO, Tricia, is admin@BRADFORDBoardOfTrade.com. Please don't hesitate if you have any questions, and we can certainly make some connections for you if you're having trouble. I want to move on to our next couple of speakers who are joining us this morning. We work really closely with the Bradford West Gwillimbury Office of Economic Development, and we're proud to welcome our Mayor, Rob Kepper, and joining him, Michael Kemp from the Office of Economic Development. He will be coming up in a moment. Welcome, Mr. Mayor. Good morning.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for the invite. So, yes, thank you, everybody, for taking part in this this forum, and it is a very important topic that we have, the recovery and the road to economic recovery for the town of Bradford West Gwillimbury. Small businesses in the community are the cornerstone of our community. They add economic stability and overall sustainability to our town. And no better example than our sponsors. Thank you so much for our sponsors for stepping up. And you are all small businesses, and in these difficult times, you are stepping up and sponsoring this great event. And all of council works to ensure that small businesses are heard and are represented. Now, we were all thrown a curveball on Friday when it was announced that, based on the advice of the Simcoe Muskoka Health Unit, that we were moving back into gray lockdown zone. And I'll just add, we were throwing a spitball last night, I think, with the gridlock that we had in our town. Just amazing how closing Highway 400 affected our municipality and the overall mindset of our residents. It's just a frustrating time, I'm sure, for everybody. But I can assure you that we will work with our small businesses, that the move to the gray lockdown, it really caught us by surprise. It wasn't something that we were asking for. It wasn't something that we were asked for comment on, so that it threw us for a loop. Now, we are aware that there is a real threat of the unknown, the UK variant of COVID-19, and it is a threat to our community. And but we're also aware that the businesses that you represent are not the source of this infection. That through your businesses, you've all gone beyond and above to make sure that you're following the proper protocol, that you have the necessary safeguards in place, and that you are there to protect your customers and your employees. So for that reason, I have asked Premier Ford to consider a modification to the present gray zone restrictions. And that is to increase the types of small businesses that are allowed to open for in-person service while following the proper distancing, masking, and cleaning protocols. The Mayor of Barrie, Jeff Lehman, sent a letter. I was advocating for our other mayors of the county to follow suit, and several did. The warden of the county now has been in touch with the Ministry of Health and the Premier, and asking for similar ways that we can open up our small businesses to allow more people to be able to interact, whether it's the small gyms or the dance studios or the different hair salons and personal care businesses, that they will still be able to open and operate. So that with the overwhelming support of the other mayors, the MPPs that have been involved from our county, and the outcry from the public, it is my hope that a change may actually happen quite soon. So council has been listening to the needs of our business community since the pandemic began. And I think our town has done many things over the last year. And probably the first thing was the Small Business Relief Fund that we got going within the first month of the pandemic, that was brought through from Saga Futures. We had that support before other levels of government were able to get their support pipelines out and available to everybody. And you'll be hearing more from Michael Kemp a little later about the things that we have done over the last year. Now, more recently, I think that as showing that our town council and our staff realized how tough it is for our residents and our small businesses, we did approve a 0% budget increase, and as well it was a 0% water and wastewater increase. That there was no new hires for the town of Bradford West Gwillimbury, and in fact members of town council took a wage reduction. But we did leave money in the budget for road rehabilitation, for traffic safety, for parks and trails, and other important capital projects. So at tonight's council meeting, we will have on-desk items, and I am asking for further efforts for our business community and residents. We're asking for no penalty or interest on overdue accounts for taxes, water bills for our residents. We'll have a resolution for other levels of government to make support available, and that make sure that they're aware of the small businesses that are falling through the cracks, and that if we are moved to another zone, that the government steps up and has money available when you do go into the gray restricted zone. That should have been something that was in the announcement when the health unit made the announcement that they were recommending that we go into the gray zone. That we need to be able to know what businesses are falling through the cracks. I think that's very important for any small business that has opened up in the last year. Get in touch with the town, get in touch with Michael Kemp. We want to be able to know who is not eligible for some of the other provincial and federal programs, and we'll see what ways we can endeavor to help those businesses out. I would just say I was very happy to hear Minister Mulroney comment that about how important the Bradford bypass is to our communities in all central Ontario. That we are still advocating very strongly for that. I sent a letter to the Federal Minister of Environment saying how important this infrastructure was, and how the updated environmental assessment that the provincial government was doing with the 15 different studies that I was quite confident would make sure that the environmental impacts were taken into account for the Bradford bypass. And as well, I did send a letter to the Provincial Minister of Finance asking that more money be put in this year's budget so the work of the Bradford bypass could continue. So thank you everybody for allowing me the time to speak this morning. I do hope we'll have some positive news very shortly. So now it's over to Michael Kemp, and Mike, over to you, and you can expand on some of the programs that the town has and what we're doing for our small businesses. And I'm sure through Michael, you'll realize council takes the importance of our small businesses very, very seriously, and our economic development department is there to help everybody. So Mike, over to you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor, and for the kind words. And thank you, Jennifer, and the rest of the Board of Trade for inviting me to this forum this morning. Just underscore what Mayor Keffer was saying about the invaluable partnership that we share with the Board of Trade in promoting business and our local economy here in Bradford West Gwillimbury. And congratulations on a successful pivot from your very popular Recon Forum, which is usually this time of year, to something a little more appropriate to COVID. I do have a presentation, so I'm going to pop it up and keep my fingers crossed. Pardon me one sec. Okay, I'm hoping that everybody can see my presentation here. I'm the first one who's got a video presentation going. And here we are. So I'm hopeful that everybody can see this. I'm off the screen now. What I wanted to do was talk about a little bit briefly about what we did throughout the course of last year with the onset of COVID, where we're at now and what we're looking forward to. March 14th, 2020, we had a grand opening. It was the 5th one we had of the year. It was Infinity Beauty Salon. You'll see this a group of smiling folks, a cluster of about 20 or more, nobody wearing masks. COVID was just something that was starting to make headlines, but for us, things were moving forward as normal. Juxtapose that with March 17th, 3 days later, an emergency was declared by Premier Ford, noting that COVID constituted a danger of major proportions. Suddenly, we became part of a new normal. I put these two slides together just to illustrate how quickly we had to pivot, going from normal to adapting to the challenges provided by COVID. We undertook a coordinated response through our emergency control group. At the time, back in March of last year, we were meeting daily to strategize and coordinate with our peers in other municipalities, doing a daily analysis to determine what others were doing to provide service levels, program changes, which were changing on day-to-day, sometimes hour-to-hour basis. We started to communicate all this information out via the town website and a COVID page that we made. The Office of Economic Development was working behind the scenes as well during all of this, working very closely with Martin Kuzma and his staff at Ottawa Saga Futures, also another valuable ally that we've had for many years, working with the county and our immediate neighbors in Innisfil and New Tecumseh. We updated our business directory, which is on our economic development website. Go to BWG.CA. Your local marketplace was updated to show businesses that were still open, businesses that were doing curbside collection and doing online ordering. We were updating this on a daily basis to try to keep people informed. We worked with the Bradford Board of Trade to develop an online procurement portal in the early days of COVID to get personal protective equipment to business owners. Within a week's time, the Office of Economic Development created a new microsite that had a variety of different resources available to talk about updates, changes to the COVID status, implications they had for businesses. We provided a section of available grants and loans, business support programs, and then personal supports for business owners as well, something Martin Kuzma touched on with respect to counseling and personalized service for business owners who were struggling at the time. The first priority was just immediate assistance, and Mayor Keffer touched on this a little bit. I'm very pleased and proud that our office and then our council stepped up very quickly to deliver $250,000 through the Emergency Business Support Fund to assist businesses. We did this through Ottawa Saga Futures, and we were able to provide immediate assistance to 57 businesses. And if memory serves, I recall Martin Kuzma saying it was essential to keeping the lights on, keeping cash flowing, keeping people hired. We deferred municipal property tax and utility bills. Community improvement plan loan repayments were put on pause, and we initiated a free consulting service with Ottawa Saga Futures. It was time for us to pivot as we were trying to grapple with the changing nature of COVID, one of the things we did was we got our grand opening program back online. You can tell just by this image just how different it was from the first one, much smaller in scope, trying to keep safe, everybody masked, everybody social distancing, but still that critical element of getting business names out there. I'm very pleased that we were able to pull together in a relatively short period of time a temporary patio program last year. We had two separate programs. One was for private property. You found those often in parking lots and plazas. And we had a downtown program where we had patios available on sidewalks around the four corners of our downtown. We put a streamlined no-cost application process online, and we were successfully able to create 21 new temporary patio spaces through this program. We did extensive surveying throughout the year, and with not only members of the public, but with participants in the program who called this a lifeline for their business. This led to the creation of our Shop and Dine and BWG marketing program that we did on social media, on websites, and print advertising as well. Advertising patio season, get out and support your local businesses. One of the things that we felt as a key priority was support for businesses downtown and getting people out in the downtown. So one of the things that came up through our downtown revitalization committee and through recommendations of our council was to create a draw. And one of those was the Holland Marsh pop-up harvest market that we did with Liz Gorzo, local businesswoman, to provide fresh produce. It was a real hit, particularly around Thanksgiving holiday, and it successfully pivoted over time as well into a Christmas market for the Christmas season. Shop and Dine would go on to be a brand that we ran with throughout not only the summer, but into the fall as well. There's Michael DeSanto and I from the Office of Economic Development, with one of the signs we had up in November and December, trying to promote shopping and dining locally for people in Bradford, to let them know that businesses were open and ready to do business. In November, Council passed a 2-year strategy that the Office of Economic Development created. Initially, we were poised to do a 5-year program. It didn't seem appropriate with COVID. We recognized that it was going to take at least 2 years to get to some sense of normalcy. So we created a strategy with 4 areas of focus that was helping businesses to remain resilient and successfully tackle the challenges of COVID, supporting increased access to infrastructure, a vibrant downtown core, and then positioning our town to capitalize on investment attraction. It's an ambitious plan. We have 4 key areas, but they have multiple objectives and action items, 24 objectives, 68 action items respectively, that have been guided by our Economic Development Advisory Committee. We are focusing on small business support and support for entrepreneurs, e-commerce, improved infrastructure, that includes hydro and internet expansion, strengthening our local partnerships, and providing grant incentives to promote and revitalize downtown. If you're not familiar, the town has 3 community improvement programs. A key one for local merchants is our downtown program. Some of you may know that the program was placed on hiatus in 2020. In February, Council wanted to take a look at eligibility criteria. The timing was tough. That was 3 weeks right before COVID hit, and new priorities with immediate assistance took over. I was very pleased, however, that we were able to bring this back in front of Council and successfully argue that now was not the time to take a hard look, that businesses needed assistance through this grant program. So they agreed to extend the program through to December 2021 with a full year's funding of $200,000 to help renovate businesses. We've received a record 9 applications in the first few weeks of 2021 after the program's restart. There are 5 different programs that I would be pleased to talk a little bit further about offline if you want to. We have grants to fix the exterior and interior of buildings, assist with planning fees, and we also have tax incentives. The development charge program has changed due to some of the budget restrictions that Mayor Keffer highlighted earlier. One of the things that we've been working on as well is broadband internet expansion. So I was pleased to hear the words of our MPP Caroline Mulrooney about investment in broadband. we successfully submitted an expression of interest to be a host community for extended broadband service through CENGEN, which is the Center of Excellence in Next Generation Networks. What that program required was that you had a private partner, which we've connected with ViaNet, and we're making applications to 2 different grant funds that are pending right now to expand broadband internet service to homes, businesses, and through our farming businesses in the marsh. We also have 2 other grant applications that we've applied for, both of which are pending. We just finished these. One is from Simcoe County. It's an in-market special project fund to create a local incubator space. Despite the challenges of COVID, we do have a very low vacancy rate still, and small spaces for startups are largely absent from here. So that would go a long way to assisting with that. And we have a grant to OMAFRA's RED program to create an online entrepreneurship portal. Education training, mentorship, and a professional referral network is all planned for this. I'm very pleased that we were able to get a new proposal in front of council in February for a 2021 patio program. We did not make it permanent. The challenges of COVID required flexibility, and I'm very pleased that council approved this program's launch. We are creating a new streamlined online application in one easy form. We have a go live by mid-March at the latest. We're in beta test currently. I'm hoping to get it online by next week. And we intend to get this program operating as early as April 15th, weather permitting. The program, again, as with last year, will stop on November 1st. Going forward, you heard Mayor Keffer talk about council discussing new relief measures. Our Downtown Revitalization Committee is going to be shortlisting our resiliency and recovery strategy to 5 key elements for the downtown core, which will be our blueprint for moving forward. And marketing and promotions are going to be guided by our EDAC committee. I have a last page with key links, and I'm very happy to share this after the fact. Some of those business resources that I spoke of are available through here. And my contact information, please feel free to reach out by email or by phone. That's what I'm here for. And if I can't assist you, that network of partners that we have is certainly able to do so. And that ends my presentation.
Thank you very much, Michael. Great information. What a difference those pictures from a year or so ago to now what we're doing. So thank you for sharing that. You saw Michael's office, his contact information there. I want to reiterate that everyone here is available if you reach out. They're outlining programs and resources, supports that are available right now. And I mean, the message that I'm hearing come through is you just need to reach out. You just need to apply. There is some support out there. So thank you to Michael Kemp, also to Bradford West Gwillimbury Mayor Rob Keffer for joining us. We are moving into our last 2 speakers. Coming up, we have the Member of Parliament for York Simcoe, this area. First, we're going to welcome Aaron Gertzen, a senior economist from BMO. And this section is sponsored by DreamWinds Equine Assisted Learning Center. Aaron, welcome.
Good morning, Jennifer.
How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be joining you.
Wonderful. We're looking forward to your presentation. Take it away.
Okay, thanks very much. Needless to say, obviously, a huge amount has changed over the past year. Difficult to overstate the impact that the coronavirus pandemic has had, not only on the economy, which is of course what I'm watching pretty closely in my job, but obviously in our society more broadly. What I'm going to do today is provide. So we'll take a glance at the labor market, interest rates, the loonie, the housing market, just very briefly on each. And I'm also going to say a few words about BMO's outlook for the rest of the year and into 2022 as the impact
We're having obviously some technical difficulties here. We're waiting to see. It looks like Aaron's Wi-Fi is
in Canada.
Oh, there he is. He's back. Aaron, I think you're freezing a little bit. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. Try it again.
Okay, so I'll try again. And before I do, I just want to make sure that people can see the slides that I'm presenting here. Jennifer, does that look okay to you? Perfect. So where I want to start here, and I hope I'm coming through clearly, is with the trajectory of the pandemic itself. And the slide we're looking at here is looking at the daily rate of new COVID cases in Canada, the US, Europe. And of course, we can see that all three of these regions saw a big increase in caseloads around the end of 2020. That upswing, of course, caused governments in Canada as well as abroad to put in place additional restrictions on economic activity to try to contain the spread of the virus. Fortunately, though, what we have seen since the start of the year is that coronavirus case counts have dropped very sharply in all three regions, to the point that, of course, many regions, and including Ontario, are now beginning to take initial cautious steps toward beginning to reopen the economy. Now, needless to say, progress has been mixed. Some regions are a little bit further along on reopening than others. And I think that's to be expected, especially given that we see vaccination rates varying pretty widely across countries. But those vaccination numbers will continue to improve over coming months. And as they do, the risk of a return to the type of lockdown conditions that have been so economically damaging, that risk is going to continue to decline. Now, moving along to my next slide here, one thing that is completely clear is that financial markets are certainly looking beyond the pandemic at this point. I'm sure we all remember, if we rewind to this time last year, stock markets were in free fall. We had most major indexes losing 30% or more in just that 1 month between February and March 2020. And of course, we also know what's followed, which is that by the middle of last year, major markets had mostly rallied to new record highs. And since then, over the past few months, we've seen a lot of markets continue to push through new highs. And what's interesting here, I'm not just talking about stocks, which I have on the left-hand chart. We've seen a very similar story play out in corporate debt markets. So on the right, I have corporate credit spreads. They, of course, ballooned in the early of the pandemic, but are now actually lower than they were before the coronavirus emerged. Now, the major driver here, I would say, has really been the response to the pandemic by governments and central banks, and I'm talking both in Canada and around the world. As we know, all major central banks brought their policy rates to effectively zero in the early days of the pandemic. Almost all have rolled out bond buying programs just in order to ensure a steady, uninterrupted supply of credit to the economy. And of course, we've seen governments step in with all manner of fiscal measures to try to preserve businesses and jobs, replace lost income. And that, in my view, has gone a very long way toward preventing the vicious cycle of rising unemployment, declining demand, and business failure, which is what you typically see during an economic downturn. Now, as I say this, obviously the very last thing I want to do is understate the very real pain that has been and continues to be felt by workers and businesses that have been affected by the pandemic. But I do think it's fair to say that certainly from an economic perspective, things would be far worse if governments and central banks had, say, tried to stay on the sidelines. So now I'm going to turn to the labor market. And what we're looking at here is the unemployment rate, which in Canada peaked at almost 14% last May. That's the highest level that we had seen since the Great Depression. But by the end of the year, in December 2020, we had unemployment down to just a little bit less than 9% as economic lockdowns were eased after that first wave of coronavirus cases. Now, of course, various provinces, including Ontario, found themselves having to reimpose lockdown measures around the turn of the year in order to counter that second wave of coronavirus cases at that time. And so nationally, we did see the unemployment rate increase back up to 9.4% in January. And of course, unemployment in the 10% range is a troubling state of affairs. But at this point, with coronavirus cases now much lower and with vaccine rollouts underway, we do expect to see a pretty material improvement in the Canadian labor market over the rest of the year. As it stands, we're looking for the unemployment rate to fall probably below the 7% level by the end of this year. And by late 2022 or potentially early 23, for unemployment to get back into that 5.5–6% range that we saw before the pandemic. Now, turning just briefly to interest rates, given that we do expect some economic slack to persist into early 2023, we given that, expect the Bank of Canada to keep short-term variable interest rates extremely low for the time being. It is true that inflation is going to be above target this year, just given that the consumer price numbers that we're going to be getting are going to be compared against those very depressed numbers from 1 year ago. But the Bank of Canada will surely look through that temporary strength, and especially given the weakness that we still see in the labor market. So as it stands, we're viewing short-term policy rate hikes as probably a mid-2023 story. That being said, though, longer-term market interest rates, they already are trending higher and jumped actually very sharply at the end of February. So even though interest rates, if you look at a longer history, remain low in absolute terms, the balance of risk has shifted pretty decisively, even just over the past weeks and months, away from the deflation and lower/negative interest rate risk toward potentially faster inflation and accordingly higher interest rates. Now, turning briefly to the loonie, as you would expect, just given the ups and downs that we've seen in financial markets over the past year, the Canadian dollar has fluctuated pretty significantly as well. It fell as low as 69 cents US last spring during the worst of the financial market turmoil. But it has now rebounded to around 79 cents. In our estimation, that's actually pretty close to longer-term fair value equilibrium. So we're actually expecting the currency to likely be pretty stable ahead. The rapid recovery that we saw in the loonie really driven by two main factors. The first being a solid recovery in commodity prices and particularly oil prices from their low last spring. And the other major factor being a decline in safe haven investment flows into the US dollar, which had bid up the US dollar at the onset of the pandemic. Now, needless to say, the stronger Canadian dollar is welcome for Canadians that maybe want to make online purchases or who are planning on traveling abroad as borders begin to reopen. Of course, in the same breath, it needs to be mentioned that the slightly stronger loonie also a headwind for Canadian exporters, as well as Canadian dollar returns on foreign financial assets. Now I'm going to wrap things up just with a brief comment on housing, which is fair to say, easily the biggest area of surprise since the onset of the pandemic. Again, if we rewind to last spring, the housing market, we saw new home sales, as I have on the left-hand chart here, collapsed through the spring. Most economists and forecasters were expecting at least a moderate correction in home prices. Some forecasters, ourselves not included, were anticipating actually a pretty large correction. Instead, of course, we've seen really the opposite. We've seen home sales surge to all-time highs, and we've seen them stay there even in the very latest data. Just given that we do have an extremely low, historically low interest rate environment, and also this shift in desire from more urban properties to larger, less central properties, given that switch to working from home. So all of this, of course, has put a very significant upward pressure on housing prices across the country, to the point that even with a little bit of weakness in the Toronto and Vancouver condo market, national home prices are up almost 14% over the past year. That's obviously a very strong result. The point that I would just impress upon everyone today is that that pace of appreciation, that level of strength, really unlikely to last. It's not a sustainable pace of growth. I would extrapolate very far into the future. And that's even more true now that we have seen long-term interest rates take a pretty meaningful step higher over the past month or so. So over the rest of 2021, looking for home sales to moderate to something closer in line with historical norms, and for home price appreciation to slow to something more like in the mid-single digits, certainly a more sustainable pace over the longer term. So I will leave things there and wrap up, and I'm happy to pass things back. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Lots of great information from you, from all of our speakers today. I appreciate that. Again, Aaron's segment was sponsored by DreamWinds Equine Assisted Learning. Thank you to them. We are moving into our time with our last speaker. Our last speaker is our Member of Parliament here in York Simcoe, Scott Davidson. But before we throw it to him, he sent along a video from the House of Commons last week. I should mention just before we go that this segment is sponsored by local company Ryan's Landscaping. Thank you, Ryan, and his team for that. Let's take a look at Scott Davidson's video from the House of Commons last week.
Families and seniors in York, Simcoe, and across Canada have been feeling the strain after months of lockdown and restrictions. These restrictions have separated families, loved ones, kept kids out of the classroom, threatened the livelihoods of millions. We have to get the vaccine rollout right in order to secure jobs and secure our future. But the Liberals' inability to get vaccines to Canadians and their repeated failures to manage this pandemic means our future remains uncertain. How much longer can our great small businesses in our community hold out before they are forced to shut their doors for good? How much longer can we expect seniors to be confined to their homes? When can we expect life to get back to normal? To get there, more must be done. We need a plan that goes beyond restrictions. We need a path forward that reopens our economy, protects our most vulnerable, and above all else, gives Canadians the confidence and hope for the future. Mr. Speaker, fear may be contagious, but always remember, hope is contagious too.
That was Member of Parliament Scott Davidson last week in the House of Commons, and now he's joining us from his constituency office. Scott, welcome.
Thanks very much for that introduction, Jen, and good morning, Bradford West Gwillimbury. Thanks for the BBT for organizing this morning, and a big thank you to Ryan's Landscaping for sponsoring me. I guess I can say we saved the best for last. I was driving in this morning and I was thinking about the BBT golf tournament, and I'm really looking forward to that, to the snow leaving and getting to springtime. So I want to thank Bradford Board of Trade for having me here this morning. That was me in the House of Commons on Wednesday, speaking about where the country's at. And obviously we know that this latest lockdown is very frustrating for small business in York Simcoe. Whether people on this call know, I was a restaurateur, a bar owner for 10 years. And I know how frustrating it must be right now, especially for our restaurants. I know Don Cherry's, to bring in inventory, have your kegs, fresh food, and then to be locked down again is incredibly frustrating. And, that's why, we need a path forward as a country, and we are going to do this together. And that's why I wanted to make this member statement in the House of Commons this week. And to everyone on this call and to York Simcoe, remember one thing: that is your seat in the House of Commons. It's not mine, it's yours. And I will always be the voice for the voiceless for everyone and speak up about issues that are important. But there's no doubt this year has been one of the most extremely difficult years for small business right across Canada, and especially in our riding of York Simcoe. And, you know, my office, one of the things, when I was in business before, there was never anyone to help me. And I know I had businesses where I was holding on by my fingernails. And there's one thing for sure that I wanted to do through this pandemic was to keep my office open. And my office has been open right through. I've never closed my office down. And I always encourage, and I am this morning, for any small businesses to reach out. I know Donna Katz from gymnastics, from Genesis Gymnastics, in the very beginning when this happened, she was having trouble getting one of the small business loan/grants, and she reached out. I called the bank. I set that up with her, and you know what? Again, she was holding on by her fingernails, and I think that helped her through. So for anybody that is having problems, reach out to my office now. Now, I want to go over a few federal programs quickly that are available and that we have lobbied since the beginning. The first one is the Canadian Emergency Business Account, which I would call CEBA. This is an interest-free, partially forgivable loan up to $60,000 now. It was $40,000. It was increased to $60,000. And that is a $20,000 forgivable grant that's available now. We lobbied as well for nonprofits. And if you've experienced diminished revenues due to COVID-19, this is available through your banks and credit unions until March 31st, 2021. So I encourage everyone to take advantage of that. And I'm you know, very mindful on the backside of this. The last thing small businesses need is more debt. I am cognizant of that. But if you're struggling right now, this is one program federally that's available. I encourage you to take advantage of. There's the emergency wage subsidy. This covers up to 75% of an employee's wage for qualifying businesses, allowing you to retain employees without having to lay them off. And that's another extremely important program for employers, and this is available until June 2021. The Canadian Emergency Rent Subsidy. This is a direct subsidy now for the tenant, not run through the landlord, because that was a bit of a mess in the beginning. This is a direct rent and mortgage subsidy up to 65% of eligible expenses to a qualifying business, charities, and non-for-profits, with additional supports for businesses that have been significantly restricted by lockdowns. So if you're in a lockdown area, this program is actually increased again. I urge you to take advantage of this. This program is available until June 2021. And there's many other additional supports online. I encourage you to visit Canada.ca/coronavirus. But again, my office is right beside Bradford West Gwillimbury. And I know, and I'm proud to say Jennifer works for me. She works tireless for me, and thanks, Jennifer. And you can reach out to her, my office, and we are more than happy to help you with the programs. And that said, I've been working continually with Minister Mulrooney as well, her office. We are very close together. So if there's something that doesn't work for you here, I encourage you to come in. We can send you over to her office. I want to thank as well Bradford Council, the Mayor, ACDOV with Bradford, and Ottawa Saga Futures. I've been in touch with them as well. So everyone is working together right now to help small businesses. But that said, that we know these support programs are not going to go far enough. And I spoke to that in the House of Commons. We need a path to recovery, and we have to start thinking about that right now. And even coming through the summer, we saw, you know, Bradford Council has the Patio program that was very important to restaurants like Don Cherry's and various other ones. These are all important programs that the town instituted. Businesses have invested in plexiglass patio setups, various other things like this, and we have to continually support these programs to come into this summer very, very strong. And, you know, I got to tell you, as I moved through all Bradford businesses this year with Sarah and Emily, whether it was Freshie, whether it was Don Cherries and Don Cherries stepping up, Ryan's Landscaping, I mean, I can go on and on. I was so impressed with the business community in Bradford. And, you know, I don't want to lose any businesses in Bradford. I want to be at more openings this year. So we are going to do everything to support businesses. I know, you know, it was a heartbreaking moment for me when I went to visit Donna Katz, and Jennifer was with me, and CrossFit was closing down. And you know what, that day they were moving out the last of their equipment, and that's just something I don't want to see any more of in Bradford or anywhere in York Simcoe. It was a heartbreaking moment. So I'm here for everyone to do everything I can. We're going to have to be nimble. And, you know, one of the things I've been pushing for since the beginning, this vaccine rollout is so important that Canada gets this right. And not to be partisan at all, but, you know, Canada this morning ranks 61st in the world on vaccine rollout. And whether you want to take the vaccine or you don't, this is one tool in the toolbox that, you know, the federal government had to get this right. And quite frankly, we failed in that right now. And I'm going to be pushing the federal government continually to get the vaccine rollout right. I've had people call my office. I took a call 10 minutes ago. You know, we've had seniors that can't even book yet, over 80, to get a vaccine. And this is one thing that we are going to need to get herd immunity and to get through this pandemic. And, you know, the vaccine procurement has really failed. But going forward, you know, to turn the corner of this pandemic federally, we are going to need a plan that involves all sectors of the economy, because I am cognizant that, you know, there's the haves and the have-nots, and I'm on small businesses' side with that. We've seen big monopolies, you know, that have, whether it's Walmart, Costco, that have moved through this pandemic unscathed. We need targeted sectoral approach for our tourism, whether it's Elfie in the travel business, the airline sector. I mean, some people call York Simcoe and Barrie Terminal 4. I have all kinds of people that work in the aviation sector, pilots, stewardesses. The aviation tourism sector in Canada has been literally wiped out. We are going to need a more sector approach. And I truly believe as well, being in this riding of Bradford West Gwillimbury, we are home. And I know a lot of people like to call it, and I do, the soup and salad bowl of Ontario. And I believe agriculture, that is one industry that we've got through a recession before. It has led us out of recession, and it is going to, on the backside of this, I believe as a country, we have to lean on agriculture. There is so many opportunities federally right now that we can take advantage of with new free trade agreements, and to really use agriculture as the driving force coming out of this pandemic. And I will continue to advocate for agriculture to be number one. I truly believe that in Canada. You know, I've said before, we are blessed in this riding. You can move a General Motors plant, but you can't move a farm. And we have to do everything we can for ag right now, and to, again, make it number one in the world. And, you know, as well, even our big conglomerates right now, like Netflix and Google and all these big companies, I want to take advantage of that. I want to harness that, bring it into Canada on the backside of this. We want their business. We just don't want to tax them. We want their business. We want to bring the film industry to Canada. We want all these things. So, you know, despite all the challenges this year, and again, I've been so inspired by the small business community in Bradford West Gwillimbury. People have to understand that, you know, whether it's, you know, raising money for a Legion, or, you know, even Carrot Fest, which I can't wait for Carrot Fest. You know, our small businesses are the people that sponsor the Little League teams. They put the banners up on the fences at Carrot Fest and Pumpkin Fest. These are, and I know other people have said it, the backbone of our community. And we have got to support them. And I know, especially with the BBT, with their takeout challenge, moving through this, we were going to have to come up with every program and do everything we can to support this. So as your member of parliament, and again, as a former small business owner, I'm committed every day to standing up for everyone in Bradford West Gwillimbury, and I will continue to work with Carolyn Mulrooney, Bradford Council, Ottawa Saga Futures, whoever I have to fight for your interests in the House of Commons and to make sure we come out on the backside of this. And again, I think the mayor spoke to this earlier. The Bradford bypass is one piece of infrastructure that I have written letters to Minister of Infrastructure, Minister of Finance. I will continue to advocate for that piece of infrastructure that is definitely needed in the riding sooner than later, because I know it's been over 30 years and we've got to get things done. We've got to, as a country, become more nimble and get things done on the backside of this. So again, no one has a monopoly on good ideas. And again, this is your seat in the House of Commons. I would say this is your office. Please reach out to my office for any programs. Again, me being a small business owner before, I can help you try and be nimble, look at financial statements. I might have an idea that you haven't thought of. So again, please reach out to me. And again, Jennifer, to the Bradford Board of Trade, all the speakers again, and Ryan's Landscaping. Ryan, you're a good man. I don't care what they say about you. Thanks for having me this morning.
Thank you very much, MP Davidson, for your time. I do want to say, while I still have you here, that, you know, there is a theme throughout this of reaching out to offices, and I'm going to just remind everyone about your constituency office phone number, 905-898-1600, and of course by email, Scott with 1T.Davidson.C1@parl.gc.ca. Reach out, as he said. You know, his staff is wonderful in the constituency office, and again, our 2 doors down, next door to the MPP's office as well. So a lot of good support there. Thank you, sir, for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
And, you know, MP Davidson really mentioned some of our small business owners and how they are keeping communities connected despite some of the challenges that they might be facing. They're supporting not-for-profits and charities, and they have supported this event here today. I want to thank our presenting sponsor, BRADFORDTODAY.CA in particular. Thank you, Gary Assis, who also led this project for the Board of Directors at the BBT. Thank you. Thank you to all of our sponsors, DreamWinds, Equine Assisted Learning, Freshie Bradford, Partners Counseling, Personally Yours, Ryan's Landscaping, and of course, the town of Bradford West Gwillimbury. I want to remind everyone that our Board of Directors are business owners themselves, and we want to reiterate our commitment to support you throughout the pandemic. Please reach out to any of us, any of the organizations presented here today, in particular our elected officials who can help you navigate the supports and grants that are available right now for your business. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Have a great day.